In the heart of the Spanish countryside, in the mountains of Madrid, stretch green plains and wild meadows surrounded by forests of pine and oak. Here, hawks, ravens, sparrows, doves, owls, and a variety of foxes and rabbits live together in harmony. Deep within the dense woods lived Moro, not just a raven, but the elder of ravens, the wise one of the flock and the guide of birds. With his piercing eyes that held the stories of 1,000 nights, he directed the movements of the flock and organized their flight among the trees and mountains. All turned to him for wisdom and counsel. He knew the forest's secrets, its dangers, and how to protect young ravens from harm. He was not a leader, but a symbol of strength and cunning, respected by every creature in those woods, birds, animals, and even the humans who wandered close to this mysterious world. Moro was not a chief, but the forest's ever watchful eye. He had observed humans for many years, he knew their faces, their voices, even their habits. He could tell a farmer from a woodcutter, in a safe corner of the city, there lived a kind-hearted farmer with a beautiful farm full of chickens, rabbits, ducks, and sheep. Nestled at the foot of one of the quiet northern hills of Madrid, where the clouds kiss the tops of the pine trees, Manuel's farm sat like a forgotten page from an old book, untouched by time. The farmer would wake up before sunrise, open the windows of his wooden cottage, and be bathed in soft grey light. Meanwhile, Moro, the chief of the ravens, stood silently on a dry maple branch, observing. Manuel would place food on the porches of his house, along with water, protecting the animals from the cold. The porches of Manuel's cottage were no longer just planks of wood adorned with decorative plants, they had become platforms of hospitality for birds. A small bowl of seeds and, in the shade, a hollow stone filled with clean water. Every morning he would say, "He who does not protect those without a voice does not deserve to be called a farmer." Sparrows chirped near his windows without fear, doves found comfort by his side, and even the ravens began landing on the stone fence, patiently waiting for him to finish his work. He could hear the flap of their wings as they descended upon the humble feast, cautious, yet full of respect. Moro, the chief of the ravens, shared the food with his sharp, black eyes gleaming. As if he held a special regard for Manuel, a respect he offered to no other human. When Manuel saw him, he said nothing. He simply nodded his head. And Moro would respond with a slight tilt of his wing. A greeting whose meaning was known only to the two of them. On a quiet morning, Manuel stood at the gate of his farm, looking around with concern. Why are the numbers of rabbits and chickens starting to decrease? He murmured to himself as he counted the chicks. He had no idea that the invisible thief was flying right above his head. At the same time, Moro the raven was closely observing the situation. He spoke to the other ravens, "We must be careful. The enemy is closer than we think." Moro gathered the ravens and the other birds, expressing his concern about Nocturo's behavior and the damage he was causing to Manuel's farm. He also complained to the leader of the hawks about Nocturo's actions, but the hawk replied, "We cast him out because he behaves recklessly and harms the other hawks with his actions." Moro called for another meeting with the ravens, the birds, and the farm animals. "We need to come up with a plan to trap Nocturo," he said. "Manuel must find out who is stealing his animals. Who will volunteer to play the role of the victim, to risk themselves so that Nocturo will try to attack, and we can all ambush him together. That way, Manuel will notice and we'll finally be rid of him." No one agreed. Moro felt disappointed, but he understood their fear. He spent days thinking, "How can I catch Nocturo?" He realized that strength alone wasn't enough, he needed a clever plan. Then, a sudden idea sparked in his mind. He went to the leader of the Hawks and said, "Do you truly want to be free of Nocturo's hostility and trouble?" "Yes," replied the Hawk. "Then I need one of Nocturo's feathers," Moro said. He took it carefully, feeling the weight of the responsibility it carried. Under the cover of night, Moro flew silently to the doorstep of Manuel's house. There, he placed the feather gently by the door, a silent warning, a message of danger. Then he flew back into the shadows, his heart filled with hope. Hope that this single feather would be the beginning of uncovering Nocturo's secret and saving the farm. The next morning, Manuel stepped out of his house as usual. When something caught his eye, a strange feather gleaming near the doorstep. He approached cautiously and picked it up. It was unlike any feather he had seen before. "Is someone hiding near my farm?" he wondered. "Or is something happening in secret?" A look of confusion crossed his face. He stood silently, thinking deeply. He needed a trick, a clever way to lure Nocturo, but without putting his farm or animals in danger. He placed pieces of fish around the farm and temporarily kept the animals away. Then he set up nets, carefully arranged so that when Nocturo would grab the fish, he'd fall right into the trap. The other birds watched from a distance, waiting in silence. On an early morning, Nocturo approached a piece of fish. And in an instant, he was caught in the net. The birds broke into loud chirping and cries. Manuel came running and saw the dark brown hawk trapped. At that moment, he knew this was the mysterious thief. Manuel looked into Nocturo's eyes. Though he was angry at what the hawk had done, he also felt a twinge of sadness. For he never wished harm upon any living creature. That day, Manuel understood that the safest way to protect his animals from Nocturo and others was to set aside a special corner of the farm, far from the cages, where food could be left. Soon, the birds of prey began to visit that corner regularly. And just like that, their visits to the fields became rare. As for Moro, he remained as he always was, watching everything from above, his echo echoing across the sky. As if to say, order is not enforced by strength, but built with justice and wisdom. Manuel's farm became not just a refuge for animals and birds, but a symbol of a rare harmony between human and nature.